So good morning, and welcome so much, Ms. McKenzie, to our class at Cardinal Carter. This is an interior design class, and what they are doing for one of their major projects is reimagining what the library learning commons can look like. And so we have already connected with a school in Kentucky, a library in Kentucky, huge, beautiful library, but a little out of our budget. And then we talked to a class in London, Ontario. So we're super excited to get a tour of your library. And we are so grateful because we recognize that it's only 7:30 in the morning for you with the time difference. So we are super grateful for you taking the time to talk to us. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you all. This is a topic that I think is near and dear to librarians' hearts, and it's just fun to contribute to what you're doing.
Awesome. All right, so do you want to begin with a tour of the library of the innovative spaces? And for them, they have to come up with a rationale for some of their suggestions. So if maybe when you're giving us a tour, talk to us about the rationale for why you did this in particular. They are super always interested in costs, okay. But we're gonna sort of tailor that a little bit because our costs are going to be different than your costs, I think, in the U.S. So.
All right, so I'm going to flip my camera around and I'll just start a little tour. I'll do a lap around our library. So let's flip this. And okay, so I'm going to start by showing you this space, and I'm going to back up here real quick so you can kind of see the whole thing. But in our library, we have 2 classroom spaces, so we can host 2 classes at once in here. So what you're looking at right now is, I call it our flexible Chromebook lab. And then if I scan all the way across the library and I'll walk down here in just a second, but we have another desktop computer lab where classes can be hosted out of that space as well. But back to this flexible Chromebook space. This is my 4th year as a teacher librarian, and my 1st year in the library, we reimagined this space right here for about $1,000. And what used to exist here were just 15 desktop computers on these really kind of clunky cabinet counters. And, no one has a class of only 15 students. Most of our class sizes here at South Medford High School, we have 1,800 kids. Most of our classes are like 35, sometimes upwards to 40 students in a class. So we wanted to reimagine this space so that it could fit a whole entire class of students, plus be flexible and movable so that it could be used for many different events and meetings and all sorts of cool stuff. So it cost about $1,000. Our district construction crew took out the counters that were there, and in place, we purchased these little foldable tables, and we already had the chairs. So the tables, I want to say they were probably close to, gosh, I'd have to look back, but I want to say they were under $100 a table. And when you're repurposing spaces, you can often find, at least in our school district, you can often find disposed tables like at our warehouse. This is our technician who just walked in the door. That's Beth. Beth, do you want to wave hello? She makes all the magic happen on campus.
Good morning, Beth.
Our campus is a really big campus. Again, 1,800 students. And Beth she walks about 20 miles a day supporting the technology on campus. She's absolutely amazing. She's a superhero. Okay, so back to the space. We took out the desktop computers. We got flexible tables that can be moved out of the way if need be. This is where we have makerspace activities set up. So usually there are just supplies and ideas and things set out on this counter. In the corner, we have our that's where you teach from. So we have a computer with a dot cam, and we can do Google Hangouts from this space. I have these movable marker boards. Those were probably about $100 a piece. So yeah, I mean, we completely reimagined this space, and I've had clubs check out the space. to do club activities. Like one of our key club groups last year, they were making and donating fleece blankets to the homeless. And so they use the space and the tables to do all that kind of work. We have a lot of district meetings that are hosted in this space, all sorts of good stuff. So any questions about this particular space before I move on?
Any questions? Where is this? Where exactly are you located? We didn't tell them specifically.
Yeah. So we're in Southern Oregon, United States, in Medford. So it's probably about 20 miles from the Northern California border, about an hour inland from the coast. In a beautiful.
I'll show them a map later, Jen. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our flexible Chromebook classroom space, and then this is just what you see right when you walk into the library. Um, We have students sign in on Chromebooks so we can track our flow. We've been averaging about 250 students dropping in on their spare time or through office hours and lunch. And then, like I said, our peak season, our peak times in our library, mid-quarter and end of the quarter, we can serve up to 1,000 people in one day with both of our classrooms going on, classes coming in for AR visits or to get books, and then with our drop-ins. Okay. I always try to have some kind of maker space, crafty activity at our front counter. So it's November and we're celebrating being grateful. So there's our grateful garland. It's like one of my favorite things every year. Let's see, moving around, we have lots of bean bags. These bean bags I got off of Amazon and they were about $60 a piece. And I was just working with a class a week ago about flexible seating, and and a lot of teachers will purchase bean bags for flexible seating. And one good thing to keep in mind is that you need to be able to clean whatever you purchase. So these bean bags are a good example of that because they kind of have a vinyl covering, so I can spray them down and wipe them off if need be. Another thing to keep in mind with bean bags is that I have to buy beanbag refiller probably about every 2 or 3 years because they kind of get flattened because they're used quite a bit.
Do you find that they're, sorry, I have a question about the big bag chairs. I don't know about anyone else. Someone told me not to do that with high school students because they get wrecked so easily. How long have you had those beanbag chairs, and do you find that to be true?
We're going on year 4 with these bean bags. I have had to duct tape one of them. So I mean, they will get some wear and tear. There's the one that I had to duct tape. So they'll get some wear and tear, but this is 4 years of high schoolers using them every hour of every day. So for $60, I think that's pretty reasonable.
That's
There are
awesome.
options. When I was working with that group of students last week, one of the groups found inflatable bean bags, so you don't have to worry about buying the refiller beans every couple of years. But then I would worry about them getting punctured. So you always have to keep in mind um, replacement of items and the cost of replacing items. Okay, so we'll continue on. We have a graphic novel display. We've just gotten some more Mac equipment on campus. We have an iMac, a MacBook Pro, and an iPad Pro for staff checkout and student use in the library. These are all of our search stations. This has been a really fun addition this year. I collaborated with our choir teacher, and they had an extra piano over in the music wing of our campus that was kind of locked up. Well, not locked up, but it was underutilized in a classroom because there always had to be teacher supervision to use that piano. And so we brought it over to the library, and we have students playing constantly, continually, all day. And it's beautiful and amazing and wonderful. And our seniors on campus are all required to write a senior paper and do a senior project. And so 2 seniors are coordinating lunchtime musical performances. And then the other senior is going to be working on um, recording and producing music from those lunchtime performances. And yeah, so it's super cool, super cool. Bring a piano into your library. And it looks like you're talking, but I can't quite hear you. Holler if you have questions. Okay. So moving on. This furniture was in the library when I started, and these are nice seats though because they're movable. You can configure them. The chairs, I'm guessing, are closer to $200 a piece. But anything that you can move around, anything that's flexible and movable is ideal. Um, and then we have round tables that can be moved as well. Um, Here is that other classroom space I was talking about, the desktop computer lab. Um, and there's a teacher in the desktop computer lab. That's Joanne Schaefer. All of our English teachers on Wednesday mornings, we have PLCs, professional learning communities. And so our English department meets in this space. And then I usually get on Google Hangout and virtually meet with the other librarians in the district as well. So, um, desktop lab, and we'll go down below. So we have a lower level of our library, and we have these study corrals with desktop computers in them. Um, and I'll show you this piece of artwork. We have a new library assistant this year, Gigi Michaels. She's amazing. And this is one big bulletin board in our lower level of the library, and she's working on a collaborative community art piece. And she's getting students grades K through 12, as well as alumni from South Medford High School, and they're all creating these little art pieces on colorful dots of paper, and it's fun to watch this thing grow. Like this whole thing will be covered soon. And
That's neat. You'll have to show us, you'll have to show me what that looks like when it's done.
yeah, she's been taking time lapse photos of it, and she just got her first packet of colorful dots from one of the elementary schools yesterday, and she has yet to put them. But the idea is that it's going to continue to grow throughout the school year. It'll be pretty cool. So down below here, next to those student computers, this is where all of our nonfiction books live. And I just recently cleared out 2 shelves of the space. Um, we we have been working on digitizing all of our periodicals. So old back issues of magazines lived on these shelves. So we recycled those, and over winter break, these 2 shelves are going to be removed, and in their place, we will put some rugs and some more bean bags and comfortable seating, just to activate the learning potential of this space. And I think that's something that's really fun. A really fun part about being a teacher librarian is that we get to think about squeezing as much learning out of every square inch of our spaces as possible. So it's taking things like this area, and instead of having it be a passive area where stuff was just sitting, we're now going to turn it into an active area of learning. And we're kind of creating almost a third classroom space down here once these things are removed. Our school district just began this year an online schools program separate from the different charter schools that we have. And we've already seen an increase of student traffic in the library in their free periods working on their online school courses. And so I'm just imagining that this almost third classroom space in this lower level of our library will become almost like an online schools classroom down the road. So we're kind of preparing for that. And anything we bring into this space, again, we're going to make sure that it's easily movable and flexible so that as needs change, we can adjust. And here is the rest of that nonfiction section. There we go. And Yeah, that's kind of the walkabout around our library. There's our interior courtyard of our school, and I'll show you out this window is we have natural wetlands right outside of our library window, and our biology teachers will come over with their students, and they'll do observing of the wetlands from this area, and there are plans for down the road to create an outdoor classroom out here as well. And we get lots of beautiful natural wildlife, frogs, red-winged blackbirds, all sorts of cool stuff outside of these windows. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Jen. Students, do we have any questions? The question is, does the classroom get too noisy for the people working quietly there?
I'll have to say that we can very easily have two classes going on at once, no problem. And I tend to be really loud when I'm teaching. And I always ask, if I'm in our flexible Chromebook lab, I always ask the other teachers on the other side of the library, I'm like, was I too loud? And the volume seems to be just fine. So we can have two classes at once, and things seem to be just fine noise-wise. But that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is. Any other questions? All right, it looks like we're good. So thank you so much again for coming in early for us. We really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jen. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.